Hello.
Hello, everybody. Reminding you about the translation interpretation option at the bottom of your screen. If you want to hear in Russian or in English, welcome to our very last session. This is exciting. We've been together here for 3 weeks of the course, and we're learning from a whole bunch of lectures and hopefully also learning from each other. Today, we're going to have your final presentations. Thank you already to those of you who have acknowledged that you'll be presenting today. And then we'll kind of summarize the course and be on our way. Suleiman, do you want to take it from here for the beginning?
Sure, thank you, Abigail. And good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, depends on where you are. So we got a reply or a response from 5 teams that are presenting today. I'm very excited to see what you've been working on for the last 3 weeks and how you will deliver that to us. I will just go with the alphabetical order and start with, should we start right now, Abigail? Yeah. So let's start with the Albanian team, if you are ready, if everyone is here.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am Erald Prokop from Albania, and we work at the National Agency of National Resources. And I will present you now our project.
Errol, do you think you could turn on your camera?
Sorry, but my camera is out of service.
Oh, no. Okay. So you'll just be a floating voice. That's okay.
Okay, I've tried to fix that, but maybe something wrong. Okay. So as you see in this map, this is the large potential of solar energy in Albania. Solar radiation is 1.72 times higher than in Germany, as you can see in this map. So we have a very solar radiation in our country. Solar energy in Albania, location, initiatives, opportunity for sustainable energy supplies. Albania has an increased consumption of electricity in summer, while the domestic production of electricity in summer is smaller because these are some reasons. About 99.5% of energy in Albania is produced by hydropower plants. In summer, there is not such rainfall. Many small power plants cannot operate during the summer months as water is needed for agriculture. This energy demand of the tourism industry focused mainly of the period June-October. In these 5 months are about 80% of the accommodation, about 3/4 of annual energy needs. Albanian agriculture is in summer has high energy consumption, which is necessary to irrigate their fields. This is mainly done by electric pumps or pumps with fuel generators. Households as well as offices use a lot of energy for air conditioners and consume for hot water heaters. Many residents in Albania do not have electricity supply in the summer months. Although Albania has inherited a central system of energy distribution through the country. It has happened that in many poor villages, especially in the mountains areas of Albania, this access has been denied to the inhabitants. It is estimated that more than 5,000 people, especially in the summer, So when they migrate to the mountains area, are not connected to the electricity supply. Therefore, in this dark condition, lighting is done with candles, flashlights, kerosene lamps, and diesel generators, causing high cost and environmental pollution. In these remote areas, solar energy is a real opportunity to improve the quality of life. So these are in north of Albania, the Alpine mountains. And we have some implementation of projects for solar energy and to use it during the tourism season. So this is a small project. More than 60 individual photovoltaic systems have been installed in rural areas in Albania. A simple photovoltaic system consists of 50 to 100 watt photovoltaic panel, 8 electric control package, 50 to 17 ampere battery, 5 to 7 LED lamps, 4 watt 12 volts brighter than a normal 40 watt lamp, mobile switch equipment. The price of such a set is about 300 euro, or let's say $300, 50 watt system, and 500 euro for 100 watt system. This is a guest house in northern Albania, and 25 guest house in Thet village have solar energy. Also a picture from an ecotourism complex with 10 cabins only with solar energy for 5 years, does not pay electricity bills. With photovoltaic pumps and lighting in farm. Irrigation is one of the most important agriculture service during the summer months in agriculture. Farmers use individual irrigation system mainly for vegetables and fruits. Photovoltaic pumps with 500 watt is a submersible pump and draws water from wells with a depth of 50 meters, up to 25 meters cubic per day. Such a system costs about 2,200 euros. They replace in operation a 1 kilowatt electric pump or such a pump with generators that use fuel. So this is a guy called Skander. He is one of the 13 farmers who has installed photovoltaic pumps. He has a livestock farm in Gradište village in the district of Lucia. It's a small city in Albania with 40 cows and 150 sheep. In addition to the water pump for livestock, he increased the investment with the LED lighting system in the apartment and in the livestock stable. This additional investment of 200 euros made it possible for the same photovoltaic panels to be used for the lighting system. Not only lighting, but also 12-volt TV have made life easier. The oil and candle generators in the photo above has been replaced with photovoltaic, as you can see in this picture here. Electrification for 5 families in Daria, a village only 25 kilometers from capital Tirana, also is a social project, as you can see in these pictures here. A simple light with photovoltaic has created the possibility for 12 shepherds of Karaburun zone to have light and charging of mobile phones, like so. Instead of conclusion and recommendation, to be able to successfully implement energy project at the local and individual level, more knowledge and information is needed. Demonstrated knowledge and practical examples are needed for consumers. The most advanced technology of the time should be promoted, need community initiative and support programs. And last but not least, think global and not locally and individually. This is the motto to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Should we open the, I have one question, but I'm thinking if we should open also questions for other participants, if they have any feedback. Abigail, what do you think?
We should definitely open it for other people as well, but why don't you start with get the ball rolling with your question?
Yes, so Erald, is that the right way to pronounce your name?
Yeah, yes, you are correct.
Yeah, so my main question is if you know of, or what is the policy framework to encourage such practice? Does it exist? Are you going to suggest something about that if it doesn't exist? And what's the current situation? Yeah.
Yes, of course. In the department where I work, so is called renewable energy and promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say it's our job to promote such let's say small projects, but in some areas that the electricity is let's say very difficult to be implemented, and we find some, let's say, like small projects like above, and we let the people know that this kind of investment it's with low cost and it can make the life easy, because the electrification in, let's say, such a harsh terrain is very difficult also for the government to be there. And a temporary solution maybe is there are this kind of projects.
Okay, so the prices you mentioned are already subsidized, right?
Yes.
So if there are any other questions from the participants or anyone else?
I have one question, Suleiman.
Yeah.
Errol, thank you for the presentation. I'm really sorry I joined like probably a few minutes late, and probably I missed the beginning of the presentation. Do you think that there will be like more methods or to increase the public acceptance of such technologies, or what's the major challenge that you faced in this work to increase the public awareness and to increase the public acceptance of these technologies?
So we have another projects, let's say major projects, but we are in the phase of, let's say, projektation. So for big consumption, like let's say big factories or something like that, we have to implement the photovoltaic needs, so they can mount photovoltaic panels to, let's say, to lower their electricity bite from the distribution. Also, we have project with photovoltaic parks and eolics for let's say bigger projects, increase to 2 megawatts per day.
Okay, thank you.
Do any other countries here have something similar, know of something similar going on, specifically in the tourism industry or otherwise?
Yeah, if someone did something similar and if they have any feedback, any advice. Abigail, should I start offering coffee?
Yeah, seriously.
Maybe
Yes,
I tell
Nicholas.
you our experience. It's a little bit different in a sense that we have implemented the net metering policy since 2016, and it also makes possible for the retail customers to have financial remuneration at the end of fiscal year, which is the end of the May. But basically it is done by individuals with their own costs. There is no involvement at this moment of the financial support from the government. However, now we are planning to introduce such kind of support also that will boost the usage of renewable energy sources in Georgia. Comparing to Albanian case, of course, this is more social activities to help people from the villages to have access to electricity and renewable energy sources. From our experience, the main challenge is financial matters that needs to be taken into consideration. And of course, from the Albanian case, it's very interesting and important that governments and other type of support is taken to promote renewable energy sources in the villages. So from our point of view, people are very interested in the renewable energy sources and using these sources for their own consumption to satisfy their own consumption, but still social conditions to apply the renewable energy sources is difficult. So I think one of the main challenge that I think all countries may face is that there should be different types of financial support for the communities and people to apply the renewable energy sources and have their own consumption satisfied by their renewable energy sources. So I think this is the kind of experience that Albania also had. So this should be tackled somehow from the central government point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting. So if there are any other comments, feedback, and questions, we should do it now, or if not, we'll move to the second team. Okay, so the second team on the list is Armenia. And
That's
who's Haik? Who are representing only you, or
No,
as a team?
Hike is the only one from Armenia here.
As a team, then.
No. Добрый день.
Yeah, hello. My name is Haik Levanon. I am from the Foundation of Renewable Energy and Resources of Armenia, and we had a program on floating panels together with our French colleagues from the Ministry of Finance and Economics, and we developed a program. We studied, we don't have too much space, too many lakes. We studied 3 lakes from where
из которых сделали выбор на
it could have been done a selection, and at one of the lakes in Yerevan, the capital city of Armenia,
общей мощностью.
we can you hear me well, right?
Yes, Dimitri, I can hear you. And Haik, I wanted to know, you sent me a
Да.
presentation. Do you want me to share the presentation or will you do that?
Uh,
Reminding anybody here who doesn't speak Russian that you can go to the interpretation option at the bottom of your screen and choose English and hear a translation to English.
Я не слышу вас.
Хайк, вы меня слышите? Сейчас это Олег. Авигайл просто сообщила,
hi, this is Oleg.
кому нужен английский, они
Abigail just told us that it's possible to put on the interpretation option for those who need
Хайк, вы
Russian.
слышите меня или нет?
Hi, do you hear me?
Abigail, maybe send a message in chat. I don't think Хайк can hear us.
Oleg, maybe send it in Russian.
Okay, I'll try.
We could hear Haik okay. That's not the problem. Gotta love these Zoom courses, huh?
Вы меня слышите?
Do you hear me?
Хайк,
Yes.
я вас слышу.
Да.
Okay, yes, hi, we can hear you well.
И вот мы остановились на
We stopped at
где
an
находится
overview
находится в столице
of where we are in the capital city of Armenia, Yerevan.
с нашими французскими коллегами
And together with our French colleagues,
должны реализовать эту программу.
we need to implement the program, and it started on the 4th of October, and it will be finished on the 3rd of July of 2022. The total installed capacity is 156 kilowatts, and the area needed is 160 square meters. It's a modular construction of 96 modules. One module is 295 kilowatts.
Здесь я во время нашего онлайн-курса я задавал
And during our online course, I asked the question on how it influences environment,
как бы на природу и
including the wildlife, the nature,
на растения,
plants,
водные растения.
what you have in the water, and there are some downsides, disadvantages, but it's not that negative in the terms of role or influence on the nature. So, as I said, construction period has begun of this power plant. What's interesting about it, our French colleagues were very wise in terms of what they did on the side of the job, and we believe that it's all good, and we believe that by the 3rd of July of 2022 we will finish the project, and there will be a handover. We will hand it over. Thank you.
Thank you, Haik. I have a question, but I will leave it to later if there are any other questions.
Я не слышу вас.
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
I said I will go for my question first. So the floating photovoltaic is a very interesting solution, especially if the country or the region has limited land resources. The main challenge is when you use it on reservoirs, like for dams or reservoirs that are used for another purpose. The main challenge is the fluctuation in the water level. So do you have that in mind, and what is the suggested solution for that, and how much of that dam's water is being used during the year, and what's the fluctuation of the level there?
Спасибо за вопрос. Из негативных...
Thanks for your question. As for the negative influence, the impact, it's quite negative. Because there is a limitation on sun irradiation on floating panels, and there is steam impeding, so it's saving the potential output, but it's quite popular in the rest of the world. And this is a small project with a total capacity of 156 kilowatts. But in our case, so this is what we could have done.
Okay. Any questions for Haik? Okay. So thank you very much, Haik. And so we will move to the next group, and for the Bosnian team.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Sorry, due to technical issues, I am not able to use the camera on my computer. I am Maldina Mširović. I come from Bosnia and Herzegovina and work in a team with my colleague Tamara Bajkuš. At the same time, I'm attending another live event. I found some free space to be able to attend today's sessions and present our project. I apologize if the sound is a little worse and my connection is very bad. I will now, if you allow me, to present our project. Just a second. Can you see my presentation?
No, not at the moment.
No?
Okay, now you started sharing your screen.
No?
Yes.
Oh, super. Great. Oh. Just a second. The theme of our project is support schemes for renewable in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The state of Bosnia and Herzegovina consists of two separate entities, the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina and Republic of Srpska, and the special autonomous district, Brčko district. As a signatory of the Energy Community Treaty, Bosnia and Herzegovina is formally obliged to apply the European Union regulatory framework for the energy sector and has successfully introduced the base principle for security of supply, competition, and sustainability. Concerning history of renewable use in the electricity sector, there is a long and successful tradition of using hydropower for electricity generation. Bosnia and Herzegovina disposes of an excellent resource availability for energy from hydro, wind, and solar power, and a proper potential for biomass and biogas-based generation facility. Total capacities of renewable energy is 2,373. Although technology improvements over the past decades have led to significant cost decrease for the generation of electricity from this renewable energy source, the provision of incentives is still essential to stimulate the expansion of clean and renewable energy in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Currently, feed-in tariffs are used as a support mechanism in Federation Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Republic Srpska, in combination with annual quotas, capacity limits. Republika Srpska has also introduced a feed-in premium system as an option, whereas the Brčko district of B does not operate a renewable support system. Outside the support system, electricity generation from renewable sources can be remunerated on the basis of a reference price set by regulatory commissions of the entities. The renewable energy industry and supporting policies dramatically changed since first support schemes were introduced. There has been a tremendous development of renewable shares in electricity generation, installed capacity, and extraordinary technology improvements. But existing renewable support schemes are not sustainable. Feed-in tariff is today considered to be an effective but not cost-efficient instrument for renewable supports. The goals of electricity production from a renewable source cannot be met through existing schemes incentives in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because reform of the renewable energy support system in Bosnia and Herzegovina needed. The concept of reforming the incentive system for renewable source should be based on improving the economy and market integration of renewable energy source, in addition to strengthen the role of a local community in the development of renewable energy source. The proposed reform aims at both reduced renewable support costs and facilitating development of renewable projects in a fully liberalized electricity sector environment. New renewable source support schemes are transparent and no discriminatory auction are introduced instead of allocation, but the order of application. The proposal to reform the incentive system for renewable energy source differs for large and small installations. The reform proposes significant improvements in the legal regulatory framework for customers who produce electricity for their own needs, prosumers. Also, the implementation of energy community project has been introduced into the legal regulatory framework. The general concept of the new renewable support schemes in Bosnia and Herzegovina is based on different support schemes for small and large renewable energy installation. For large-scale installation, incentive based on feed-in premiums and wholesale price, market reference price. For small-scale installation, incentive based on feed-in tariff or net collection up to a defined capacity limit. Support schemes for small scale installation. The proposed that small scale installation are still supported under feed-in tariff schemes and a guaranteed redemption price in provide for them. Small installation in Republic Srpska are less than 115 kilowatts, and Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, small installation solar power are less than 150 kilowatts, wind and hydro power less than 215 kilowatt, and the biomassa and biogas less than 500 kilowatts. For small installation in Republic Srpska, guaranteed purchase price in envisaged, which be allocated according to some administrative procedure. In the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, small installation receive a guaranteed purchase price in the process of small auctions in accordance with the available technology quotes. Quotes should be set in transparent manner for each technology. Large-scale installation. For large-scale installation, we have a 2K proposal, comprehensive replacement of feed-in tariffs, but feed-in premium. Instead of assuring renewable installation a fixed price, independent of demand on generation in the system. Renewable investors and stakeholders should sell their electricity into the wholesale market and receive a premium on top. Before the introduction of an electricity wholesale market, instead of the wholesale market price, a reformed flexible reference price should be applied to renewable feed-in, mimicking efficient price setting in the market. Use of renewable auction strongly promotes the use of technology-specific auction for setting of support levels for large-scale renewable installation at the entity level, provided there is a sufficient potential for a limited diversity of renewable technology. For large installation in the public subscale, a market variable premium is envisaged, which would be awarded through the auction process, which could be conducted every 2 years by the operator, incentive period 15 years. But for large installation in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, fixed premium is provided for the auction process. Auctions are held at last year 2 years, so they can be more frequent, conducted by the operator, incentive period 12 years. This slide. Additional merits that can justify additional support include energy supply for small communities and more generation public acceptance for renewable. This these so-called community energy projects will be eligible for tax if set on condition is fulfilled. Community energy project, but they are planned to be introduced specific remuneration schemes for prosumers, small-scale renewable generation that also consume electricity. Net metering billings referred to the mandate practice of supplier to compensate excess electricity generation of a prosumer combined with covering excess demand in times of insufficient generation for self-consumption. Purpose in the case of net metering, the compensation in physical on net consumption of electricity invoiced. In the case of net billing, compensation is monetary with the pricing rule to be specified. Outline in the state renewable energy action plan, the state of Bosnia and Herzegovina today prices a renewable policy with a target of a share of 14% in final energy consumption from renewable energy source for 2020. Bosnia and Herzegovina has registered 58% share of renewables in 2019. Bosnia and Herzegovina is currently discussing a new target for 2013. The process of drafting the integration climate and energy and climate plan of Bosnia and Herzegovina for the period until 2013 as NECP is underway. NECP Bosnia and Herzegovina will define the goals for increasing energy efficiency, increasing the use of renewable energy source, and reducing GHG emissions by 2030, as well as the necessary policies and measures to achieve them. In general, the reform aims to reduce the cost of incentive for renewable energy source and facilitate the development of renewable energy source projects in a fully liberalized environment of the electricity sector. The reform also provide simplification of licensing process in order to facilitate the promotion and use of renewable energy source. Thank you for attention. That is all.
Thank you, Aldina.
Thank you, Aldina. Does anyone have similar experience, like what's happening in their country about incentive to increase the renewable energy share in the energy mix? And if they have any feedback about what Aldina just presented? Yeah, Magdalena, you see your hand.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Magdalena from Ministry of Economy of North Macedonia. As I have understand from the presentation from the Bosnian representative, is that this is still a proposal and it is not yet implemented in their legislation, as I have understood. We have switched to feed-in premium in 2019, I think, which is a requirement from the EU legislation that we need to transpose in our legislation. Yes, we still have feed-in tariff, but we have introduced market-based support scheme like the premium. Our concept is that we have a fixed premium, which is 15 euro per megawatt hour. This is the maximum fixed price, and is added on the market price that the producer sell their electricity in the open market. This is conducted by an electronic auction, and so far we have conducted 3 public calls, 1 on state-owned land and 2 on private-owned land, for a total installed capacity of 140 megawatt. And it is, I think, it was very successful for our country, especially when we conducted the tendering procedure for the state-owned land, where we, as state institutions and government, have provided the land for construction of PV plants. And our obligation is also to provide the connection to the grid, and I can say we have in this tender that was for state-owned land, we have gained around 2 million euro in our budget, because investors were very interested to have this land, because it was probably more difficult to find land to build high capacity installation, large scale installation. So actually at the end they were tendering about the land. So we had a 0.01 premium, and we went to a positive on auction. They were tendering actually for the land, so that was a good experience in our country.
Thank you, Magdalena. And Tamara, you raised your hand, right? No.
Tamara isn't here. Nicholas raised his hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tamara is here. Sorry, you are here,
Tamara is
Tamara.
back.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm joining from the hotel lobby and my connection is getting lost. From time to time. I hope you can hear me now. I just want to thank her for sharing the experience of North Macedonia. Magdalena mentioned that for Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Tamara, it's very hard to hear Tamara.
Tamara, why don't you write in the chat maybe? It really is difficult to hear you. In the meantime, or go to somewhere else, and in the meantime, we'll listen to Nicholas.
Yeah.
Thank you. In Georgia, as I mentioned, we have so far net metering, and maybe also know that Georgia recently joined to energy community. So our plan is to harmonize energy case to Georgian energy legislation. At this moment, we don't have auction-based procurement of renewable energy sources on large scale, which is the plan for the country to implement auction-based procurement of energy sources. On small scale, we have the net metering, and this is so far the support scheme which is possible in Georgia, although the net metering policy covers all technologies at the same level, in a sense that there is no distinction of the technology in Georgia. So they can use any type of renewable sources, and there is the maximum threshold of 500 kilowatt for each of the technology. Maybe if I may, I will ask the question regarding the technologies. The support schemes in terms of the financial matters is also based on the technology in Bosnia and Herzegovina, or it's also same for all type of technology. And there was a support period for large scale, as I heard, 12 years. But if it's possible to elaborate more in terms of the support period for small scale renewable energy sources for Bosnia, is it like 12 years, 20 years? How long is the support scheme in case of the Bosnia?
Thank you.
Aldina, did you hear the question? Aldina or Tamara, did either of you hear the question? Oh, okay. Aldina didn't hear it. Nicholas, can you repeat the question you had?
So the question is that the support scheme for small scale and large scale renewable energy project is also based on the technology. That means that for wind, solar or hydro, there is different feed-in premium or feed-in tariff schemes applied, or it's same for all type of technologies. And second question is that for small scale renewable energy projects, how long is the support period? Like 10 years, 20 years or so?
I see some answers in the chat. Tamara wrote that small scale will have guaranteed tariff and the large will have premium from auctions for 10 to 15 years period. Does that answer your question? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I see that Tamara also wrote in regarding to Magdalena's question, whether what Aldina presented is still only in the form of proposal. Yes, but we are in the finishing stage. By the end of next year, we are expecting to have primary and secondary legislation adopted. Then we will be able to have auctions as well. That's very good to hear. Thank you, Tamara, for your replies. Does anybody else have questions?
I actually have a question. If nobody else has a question. So it's mainly about the feed-in premium and how it's being calculated. So to my understanding, you take the current bulk price for electricity based on the generation that already exists, and you add a premium for the renewable energy company or renewable energy resource that you, or technology that you want to encourage. Is that right? Based on market price, yeah. So market price for the electricity or for the technology? Okay, no problem. So my question is,
if you could
this
just,
is not
Suleiman,
even
if
the
you could
question.
just read the replies,
so,
because people recording, you can't see the chat.
Yeah, so Tamara is answered that it will be calculated based on the market price, and it's not sure if it's regulators do this, if it's the price is calculated according to the technology market price or the current electricity market price. So the regulators will do this. At the ministry, they don't do this part. It's fine. That's not even the question. My question is, so in the first round, you calculate based on the current market price. How will the improve, like because of the feed-in premium, then the current market price will be changed. So for the second round, how will that be reflected on the premium that you will be proposing? Or is it a fixed premium regardless of when you announce the auction? So give Tamara a few minutes or seconds to, so she will provide the answer later via email. It's fine. Okay. If there are no other questions, then maybe we move to the next presentation. Any other questions? Last minute. Okay, so the next presentation is actually a package of two countries, Georgia and Serbia. Well, I do remember in the session when we talked about the project, it was clear that Georgia and Serbia are sharing the same interest in presenting the same issue. So the floor or the screen is yours.
Sorry, my mistake. It's Georgia and Belarus.
Okay.
No. I was Serbia. Right, Serbia.
I remember, yeah.
No, Belarus.
Belarus, yes. My mistake, sorry.
Okay. But I do remember that Serbia was interested in what Georgia is talking about, or vice versa. Okay, Luca, are you presenting?
Yes. Yes, I will be presenting the presentation. Let me share my screen. So I hope you can see the presentation.
Yes.
We decided to focus on social problems. We have expressed our interest in the problems associated with project development in Georgia and Belarus. As a forward, I would like to say that even though the problems faced by two countries are very different, in core, they are practically the same, meaning that public acceptance is a problem for both countries. And we believe that even though there are differences, ultimately the solution for tackling this problem is invariably the same. So let's get to it. So firstly, I would like to say a couple of words about a general overview of social problems we face. The first one is the most apparent for Georgia. It is the disinformation, lack of awareness of project. As per our meetings understood, in Belarus, this is primarily not in my backyard approach and unwilling to spend own funds. And the lack of professional understanding regarding project is also a problem in Georgia, since most experts that are against these projects are not energy-based experts, meaning that are mostly environmentalists and social
people occupied with social problems. So energy and power projects are less represented during these discussions. So the first case example we would like to review is the lack of interest. This is primarily a problem for Belarus since we don't have the mandatory modernization of buildings. The thermal modernization of 249 apartments were considered by the government of Belarus with involvement from local population. However, some of these people did not like to spend their own funds on the project. So it is stalling, and despite the fact that it's a necessary improvement, the project is failing. Not failing per se, but stalling significantly. So this is a major problem for the country, as it is a mandatory expansion, and it will need this efficiency improvements to tackle problems with energy or climate change in the future. As for this disinformation, as we said, this is a major problem for Georgia. In total, out of 88 projects that were suspended, a majority of them were due to social protests. This ranged from social protest, active protests that strikes and etc., to small disputes, and generally that some of them are agreed on. And even though this large figure of $4 billion and 20,000 jobs might suggest that it's only a problem for large projects, it's also a problem for small ones too. In my personal experience, for example, we had problems establishing communication with locals in some mountainous areas regarding efficient heating stoves, for example, cooking ovens, and transmission lines. For example, my colleagues have had these problems as well. So this is not a single problem for large projects only, although the majority of this lost funds come from even these large projects. Some of the claims are made that, are genuine concerns about the environment that are somewhat founded, meaning that they might have some actual basis, but some some claims, especially on social media, revolve around some mythological problems. Like, for example, Lechumi is a region of Georgia with a small area of 722 square kilometers, and some protesters claim that a construction of dams would change the landscape so much that the entire region would be flooded and made into a reservoir. Of course, it's not correct. In fact, only 0.8% of the entire area would be flooded to make a reservoir for all of these combined projects. Another example would be not a dam, but a wind power plant. We had a problem with one of the power plants, Nigoza, which would have been one of the larger ones of our projected wind power plant projects. It would have an installed capacity of 50 megawatts and would ensure an annual generation of 232 million kilowatt hours annually. However, the construction of the wind power plant was temporarily suspended due to a risk involving local, birds. Some protesters claimed that this would damage the habitat of local Egyptian vultures who nested nearby, and they claimed that the nearest nests were 300 meters away from the power plant, and it would interfere with the migration patterns of birds. However, after examination, it was revealed that the nearest bird nests are actually 2 or 3 kilometers away, and the height will not be sufficient enough. Height of the turbine itself would not be sufficient enough to cause any harm to these birds on a large scale, at least, to endanger them or cause their extinction. So we've seen that disinformation is a core problem, and what can we do to increase awareness of these projects and perhaps contribute to their timely evaluation, estimation, and implementation? Well, one of the first things we would like to do is the identifying the source for this information. Is it a valid source? Perhaps it is a social media source, and where is it coming from? However, our end goal would be to compile this information, create a database, create an awareness-raising campaign that target audiences from Social media, television, perhaps other people that will ensure that these people are supplied with adequate information about the project itself and are aware of the potential risks and benefits of the project that are supposed to be implemented. And some of the ways are to resolve communication issues are, well, opening communication channels. This has been a very important topic of discussion in Georgia. Previously, we have done some work on this topic already. For example, some of the organizations are participating in preliminary discussions of our strategic documents, which hasn't been done before, and our environmental legislation, most notably the Environmental Assessment Code of Georgia, already envisages a couple of passages that allow for this processes to happen. There are a couple of platforms on social media already existing that promote positive aspects of renewable energy development, and more people are beginning to realize that these projects are important for the development of the country, especially in our geopolitical climate and our deficit, of course. And one of the major problems that these people often face, especially considering that we have small-scale development of renewable energy, is that people are not aware of the opportunities that are presented to them for small-scale renewable development. Several banks in Georgia, for example, ProCredit Bank, provides incentives and grants for small-scale renewable energy projects. However, most people who are seeking this, we can read this on public forums, etc., are simply unaware that such opportunities exist. And also another important thing I have noted myself is that people are unsure whether or not to invest in new technology. For example, the efficient stoves I mentioned earlier had this problem, but people were simply unaware that these stoves could bring any benefit. And after a brief demonstration, they were, of course, positively upheld. And also qualified specialists is another important topic that the country seeks to discuss because, well, most discussions that go around the project are simply focused on environmental issues. And power issues are important, and there aren't, well, there are experts, of course, that come out on social media, on television, and of course, tell the benefits of the projects, but engaging more experts on this matter will improve the conditions well, considerably. For example, we've seen even from some well-known people some misconceptions about renewable project development. For example, one of the hydropower plants in Georgia, Enguri, one of the politicians said that why couldn't we turn on Enguri and why wouldn't it run constantly on its full power? Well, of course, this is impossible, and this is a problem. Same can be said about renewable energy development like wind. Why not plug it in somewhere in the middle of the city and start doing it, start generating electricity? This was a genuine comment from someone, I believe, in the past. However, we are well, witnessing that people are getting more knowledgeable about renewable energy projects in the long term. And one of the opportunities I've already discussed is using internet space, of course, and public spaces for organization of discussions. This is already happening under our environmental legislation. For example, administrative centers are mandatory to be held in discussions, especially for the projects that are taking place in the local area, especially large-scale projects. And to combat disinformation, strategies are being developed by local organizations and well, from some involvement, I believe, from the government. I can't tell you exactly. And working groups and focus groups are already somewhat developed, or however, we are constantly, well, countries constantly trying to improve on it and create new spaces for people to meet and exchange perhaps ideas about this process. So this was all I wanted to say about the presentation. If you had any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you very much. I should say personally, this is my favorite type of projects and activities because it relates very much to what I do. I have one question regarding the last slide you presented. If this is maybe for your future consideration. If you can just list like what is the percentage, potential percentage of the population that can be reached via each one of these different channels. So for example, when you talk about social media, you can list, you know, how many people are statistically, how many are using social media in the country, what is the internet access rate, and what you think your impact by approaching them in this way can have. Same thing to the public places and spaces and the other types of channels. It's very interesting. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions from the participants, the audience. I see that other participants are also encouraging you. Erald, you unmuted yourself. Do you want to say something before?
Yes, I will say that in Albania we have River Vjosa, if you know. It's the last wild river. And Europe is making, let's say, a big noise to preserve this river. But in this river, we had two major dam projects, and they are suspended now. And our government is focused now in a major project like photovoltaic parks for using the waves, sea waves energy. So maybe in the case of Belarus and Georgia, if this river is, let's say, let's present the wildlife and the cost to preserve this is more than adding more dams, that why not to preserve this river? That's it.
Thank you.
Can I?
Yes.
Maybe I have missed that in your presentation. My question is, do you have under the environmental legislation to organize, to conduct environmental impact assessments of before every project goes further, and to have a public debate on this report? And who is invited to these public debates? You should probably consider the locals and the NGOs, and not only the stakeholders, I guess. Or maybe it's done in this way, but my question is if it's set up in this manner.
Yes, thank you, Magdalena, for your question. Yes, our environmental assessment code includes an environmental impact assessment for physical projects. We have a strategic environmental assessment for strategic documents, and also a regulatory impact assessment for projects as well. In terms of public hearings, we have involvements from local stakeholders, meaning that project development organizations, our government representatives from relevant ministries, so Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development, Ministry of Environment and Agriculture, Ministry of Finance, etc. But also we have public hearings are open to anyone, including non-governmental organizations. In fact, they're regularly attended by them, and local representatives. These hearings are mostly held in several locations, in Tbilisi and also locally. For example, a hearing for Namakhwani was held, I believe, not Namakhwani, but another hydropower plant was held on place and was attended by locals without any problems. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. And what is the feedback when these public debates are held? Is there any feedback from the locals that are most concerned and make these difficulties for the projects, or it just?
It depends largely on the project itself. Some feedback is, well, it depends. We have to review all of the feedback that comes for the assessment. It depends on the feedback mostly, if it's something that we can incorporate in the project, if it's something that is supposed to be considered in the project and concerns, all of it is included as well. It depends largely on the project itself.
I actually can share some experience on doing this public consultation sessions. Almost 10 years ago now, I was part of the team who worked on the largest wind farm in Jordan. And as a requirement for the funders, and that's the main reason what we have it, that the public consultation and the EPA, the EIA requirement as part of the law. But of course, not like the main concern for the developer is to secure the funding. So they do it only to satisfy that requirement from the funding agencies. And one of the main challenges to organize the public consultation was to agree on a time for everyone. There are so many different players there, and you actually end up by having a date that actually compromises everyone's time. So not everyone could be in that meeting. And that's it. Since it's only a check next to a box, then, okay, we did a public consultation. People showed up. We had like 25 participants. But as Magdalena highlighted, who are these people, where they are coming from, and how much of that is actually representing the community themselves was the main. Nobody actually is looking into that details. They just want to see the numbers, how many people attended. And of course, at the end of the meeting, there will be a big lunch or dinner and everyone is happy. So things are cool. So I would say that based on experience, I don't trust that much the outcome of public consultation. I would love to see more input from other ways or other techniques in order to get the feedback of the people, especially that when you don't, when you have like a large number of stakeholders or large number of interest groups, and it's very hard to agree on a specific time and date for them to be in the room.
Of course. There are other mechanisms as well. We have, for example, for documents, we provide them on a website, and through social media, we popularize it. And that is another measure that is implemented and is included in the environmental assessment code as well. But of course, not everyone can be reached even this way.
Yeah. So thank you, Luca and the team. I think this was a great presentation. But as I said, I'm personally biased. So anyway, yeah. So if there are no more questions or discussions, I'm also curious to see how other countries do like deal with such challenges. If there is anyone who wants to say something about how they do it in their own country, that will be also a great input. Anna? And I see that you unmuted yourself. Is that by mistake, or you want to say something?
Anna is the interpreter.
Ah, so it is by mistake.
No, so it is on purpose because she's translating what you're saying.
I'm very bad with names. Okay.
Is there anybody else who has questions? If not, we can go on to the next presentation, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so the last but not least, we will hear from the team of North Macedonia, who is presenting.
Yes. Hello,
Yeah,
this is Magdalena. Yes, just a second to share the presentation. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not in the slideshow
Yes.
mode. It's not, yeah.
Yes, just a second. Dacă nu aprești na tela, cred că Okay, it's okay now.
No, we still see the same window, which is the PowerPoint
Oh,
software itself.
oh, in my screen is full screen.
Yeah, so
Stop sharing.
Yes, yes,
And then,
yes.
oh, okay.
yes, perfect.
It's okay now.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, this is me, Magdalena, from the Ministry of Economy of North Macedonia, together with our team, my colleague Katerina, also from the Ministry Energy Department, and our two colleagues from the Energy Agency, Natasha and Stanislava. As we have introduced our project proposal on the previous session, it is about introduction and development of energy communities in the energy market of North Macedonia.
Could you turn on your camera before you continue? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't have installed it.
Okay.
I had a problem. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And on my mobile phone, my battery goes off very quickly, so it will have to go like this. So, as I have mentioned in the previous session, we have a obligation to transpose the requirements from the Renewable Energy Directive, the recast of this Renewable Energy Directive from the EU legislation to our legislation, and this is the establishment of these energy communities, actually renewable energy communities in our acquis. So primarily we have to consider what this directive is, what is included in this directive, and to make justified transposition in our legislation. This is what I presented, and I will not go into details of this, just as a remark that we are obliged to include this concept in our legislation by the end of the next year, end of 2020. So we first need to define what an energy community means. We have a separate draft law on energy communities, and we need to consider to incorporate the concept of energy communities in this broadened scope, and to define the term of renewable energy communities, which are an association of the local population, a group of citizens whose investments in renewable energy sources will result in the development of their community. We have to consider to make this a concept based on these following principles: to be voluntary and open membership, to have democratic control by all members, economic participation of members who will participate with their own part of the investment, to have the independence and to offer education, training, and information, and to provide cooperation between communities to gain community care overall. We had made an assessment of the probable existing barriers, which can, as we have detected, they are legal, administrative, and financial, let's say, barriers to overcome. As for the legal support, we need to make changes in the relevant laws, such as the energy law on communities, and relevant bylaws. In order for these projects to be feasible, we need to consider the incentive schemes, to include the feed-in tariff and guaranteed purchase of the produced electricity, maybe some other form of subsidies, grants, etc. And to consider the administrative support and to ensure a one-stop shop for submitting conditions of relevant documents, and preferably this to be online in order to have a short and efficient issuance of the relevant document. As a model of energy community, as it is we had it is set in the directive, and also we have see some other experiences from other countries. The first step is to have a minimum 10 citizens who will submit their initiative to establish this kind of community to the local municipality. And there goes the decision of the council of the municipality. Afterwards, there will be a public call for all interested participants, and you need to present the project of the energy community to show the possible installed capacity, the expected annual electricity production, decrease of CO2, the investment cost, and the expected income from this investment. As a step 4, there should be an establishment of assembly of the subcontractors, and they will have election of the president of the community supervisory board and secretary. So this will be a form of legal body that will under our legislation, and to manage all these activities that need to be undertaken to have the investment in place. This is just a proposal on how on one building, let's say this, we had this analysis made before. So it is when we have one residential building consisting of let's say 55 households, and we will need the installed capacity of 133 kilowatt of solar rooftop solar plant. And this is the surface is about 800 square meters, and the total annual production is about 1053 kilowatt hour. So we can see here the expected annual electricity production, total investment, and we have considered here to have a feed-in tariff in place, which we estimated to be 70 euro per megawatt hour. It is calculated the expected annual income, the cost of maintenance, the income that will come in the end, and the number of participants, the investment share of each member, and the annual income by members that will be gained, that can be gained after this this project works and is starting to produce electricity for the buildings and the citizens that live here. This we have considered that this investment will pay off after 7 years or so.
Magdalena,
And, yes?
sorry for interrupting. Can you slow down a little bit for our interpreters?
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Sorry. Okay. So yes, this shows that people from the household that live here will gain a certain income. But actually, I think that the overall objective of such kind of energy communities, it's not only the positive financial feedback for the members who invest in this project, but also to consider this revenue to be invested in additional energy efficiency measures in their building that can additionally make a better comfort for their living, and of course to increase the awareness of investing in renewable energy. As main benefits, we have set social, environmental, and economic. As a social, we first of all, it's like to increase the sense of belonging in the community and to save energy and to improve the environment, to have better energy efficiency of the building. to create new jobs in terms of maintenance, installation, and production. And as for the economic benefit is to divide the investment risk among the members of the community, to save electricity cost, and as I said, the opportunity to invest the profits in new energy efficiency measures to improve their living. And of course, this will lead to a decrease of CO2 emissions eventually if it's broadened fast. So thank you for your attention. These are our contacts and my colleagues, and please, if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very interesting. And since the call for prayer is on here, I will give the opportunity for other people to ask questions until it's more quiet.
Does anybody have any questions or comments or examples from your own countries? Does anybody else from the team have anything to add?
So I have a question. The main question that comes to my mind is where the tariff, where the feed-in tariff is coming from, what the budget for that one. Is it coming from the central government budget, from the electricity companies? Who's actually paying that money?
Now we do have feed-in tariff, but it's for small hydro and biogas and biomass. And the electricity market operator is purchasing the whole electricity from these preferential producers. So it is the purchase of the electricity is guaranteed by the electricity market operator. So it's it's a governmental budget, let's say. And that's why for the energy communities, there is no still feed-in tariff. We have we introduced here in our proposal, because as we have seen from other countries' experiences, that preferably a feed-in tariff could make these projects feasible for a start, let's say, to encourage people to invest in these technologies for their own consumption. So maybe further on, another incentives and subsidies could be considered. But initially, we think that this could be feasible to introduce a feed-in tariff for these projects.
So
that will be a challenge, since the money from the budget will be extra money from the budget will be needed, and this will need to be considered to have more analysis on if this will work.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about the electricity pricing in your country, in North Macedonia? And what is, like, if you are proposing here a 7 euro cents per kilowatt hour, and how does that compare to the current electricity prices? How significant is that?
Well, I don't have this kind of analysis here at the moment, so maybe yes, we think this issue should be considered when we are talking about this. So so it's like we are going backwards, since we are promoting new market-based support schemes, as I have mentioned, like the premiums, and we go to the open market and sell the electricity to the open market. This is some kind of a step backwards to additionally, let's say, burden the central budget. But I will have to first consider on what would be the interest and volume of people that will like to invest in such energy communities, and then have the analysis of how much assets from the budget will be needed and how much it will burden additionally the cost. So this will, I think, will need a deeper analysis on this question.
And when you say community, is that based on location or interest, or is it communities that you mean, you know, a certain region, a certain area?
I mean, maybe they can be, for example, one municipality and their public buildings, like schools, hospitals, and etc., or residential buildings that are in one municipality and probably close to each other to have cooperation between themselves.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very interesting. And also, I want to mention something, like to compare that to what we have here in Jordan. And maybe that will encourage other participants to also mention what they have in their own country. So in Jordan, we have an what they call it incremental tariff for electricity. So based on how much you consume, the price per kilowatt hour changes. If you consume more, then you, like, for example, if you are consuming up to 150 kilowatt hour per month, which is the minimum, you pay something around 4 euro cents per kilowatt hour. But if you consume anything above 2,000 kilowatt hour per month, then you pay around 35 euro cents for that. So they are in a way encouraging people to consume less or to find more creative ways to save energy in their households. But also this way, or this means that, you know, if we do a feed-in tariff, then that will be will not encourage the large consumers to utilize solar energy, because they are already paying much more than what the feed-in tariff is. So for them, it's not financially feasible. It's not a good option. So that will encourage the small consumers, who in the country here tend to be the more poor people. So in a way that actually you are, by imposing the feed-in tariff, you are limiting the option for poor people to utilize more energy resources by, you know, and also the potential for them to have an income from the feed-in tariff is also minimum. So that's why we don't have a feed-in tariff here. But also we introduced a subsidy for the PV systems, mainly for systems which are less than 4 kilowatt peak installed. And that means, you know, whoever installs less than 4 kilowatt will get a good subsidy, which is around 600 dinars, around 800, 900 euros for their system. And this way you are actually encouraging the people, the small consumers, to have their photovoltaic system. But also because we don't have a feed-in tariff, the saving, the potential saving for large consumer is big, because they can simply drop from the highest rate for electricity, the 35 euro cents, to 20 euro cents by just having a small system or whatever. So for them, it's a good incentive. If there's any other, I see that Natasha has her hand up, but also if there are any other participants who want to share the experience in their own country, then this will be great to compare.
Hello, I would want to mention that our country did not want to use the practice from Western Europe, where there is a principle of exchange of goods, kilowatts for kilowatt, that are offset not paid. Now you can put photovoltaics, but you cannot deliver it in the network. No one has an obligation. And plus, if you want to sell, to make a deal with a trader, then you need to register as a sole producer of electricity. For your needs, you can, but it's set a responsibility condition must be provided for the network to receive it. because when the citizens enter electricity, the voltage in the network improves. Today, in half of the statements in our country, the voltage is up to 180 and 90 volts. Machines do not work, they break down because proper connection and transformers are not built. And this will improve it because they are in an inflow and non-consumption. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Tasha. Natasha, I don't think that I heard the last part of what you said. I'd like it.
In which part? The machine? I want to make the condition must be provided for the network to receive it, because when the citizen enter electricity, the voltage is the network improves.
Yeah, it's one of the main challenges actually that
yes,
electric companies have is the grid stability.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes.
there are the two scenarios. One is like improving the grid stability by having more renewable energy, but like because most of the countries are not utilizing that much percentage of renewables, then the sudden change can actually affect the grid stability and the continuous supply of electricity, especially if we talk about solar, where actually it's very much dependent on the available solar radiation.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyone else that is there any comments on what Natasha just said about the grid stability option or challenge, or following up on what actually was presented in the presentation itself?
May I?
Please.
Okay, as you said in your case in Jordan, also in Albania, small consumers of energy, if they pass over 3 kilowatt hours per month, they will pay more. They will pay big tariffs than the actual price. Also you can add up to 500 kilowatt photovoltaic panels to fulfill your needs. But if you produce more than you need, then this power is distributed in the distribution authorities, but this will not pay you back. That's the case in Albania.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Also, another interesting fact about the electricity system in Jordan, that actually small consumers up to 300 kilowatt hour per month get subsidy, that the tariff itself is subsidized by the government. So there is also another interest there in encouraging them to to reduce what they are consuming, or I don't know, maybe actually increase what they are consuming, so they are out of the subsidy range, is to have solar energy on their rooftop. And that's why there is the direct subsidy towards renewable energy by offering that discount on the system price. So any other similar examples of from your country, from your experience? Okay, so okay, then by this actually we get to the end of the presentations of the participants project, which as we noticed I would say has different characteristics. One of them is like diversity and how every team worked on a different idea about that's very much relevant to where they come from. But I want to highlight one, or actually two things. One is that we noticed in the case of Georgia and Belarus that actually two countries that are relatively different from each other, the participants shared or found out actually that there is a common topic that they can present and talk about, which is the main goal of having such workshops or training courses like this one that brings people from different countries, and that understanding of how different but also similar our conditions are when we talk about renewable energy in specific can bring lots of potential for collaboration and also ideas that can be implemented in more than one country. So this is a very important added value, I would say, for what we are doing here. And the other is that the fact that actually we are sharing here what's happening in a very large geographical area that we're covering Asia, Middle East, and Europe with very different backgrounds and people's behavior and even level of consumption of electricity. But because the renewable energy is a very common or very essential topic to talk about, actually there is lots of similarities and common interests between us in utilizing that resource. So I would thank you very much for everyone, for all the teams who actually work very hard in delivering these outcomes. And thank you for sharing your work with us. And Abigail, it's back to you to continue with the session.
Thank you very much, Suleiman. Hi, everybody again. Thank you very much for that. That was very interesting. And I can see that a lot of work was put into these presentations. I want to thank you, everybody who filled out the feedback forms. You still have a chance to fill out your forms if you haven't done so yet. I sent everyone an email about that. I want to, oh, I see a message. I was going to go over some feedback questions, but first I would like to present Irit Savion. Irit is the Director of Training and Capacity Building Department at Mashav, which is Israel's Agency for International Development. This course is, if you don't know yet, this course is run through Mashav. Irit will say a few words and then I'll continue afterwards. Irit?
Thank you very much, Abigail. Good afternoon, everybody. And my apologies. I was called to another meeting, so I couldn't stay longer online. So I asked to talk first. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Irit Savion, Director of Training and Capacity Building in Mashav, Israel Agency for International Cooperation, which was established in 1958 and ever since has been working on different training programs in Israel around the world with lots of partners. And thank you very much, UNECE. I see the representative, Mr. Javinsky, Oleg, and others with partners from around the world. We have been working with different training institutes in our centers, and one of a colleague center is the Arava Center. So thank you very much, Tariq, which I don't see in line, but Suleiman and Abigail and the different directors and team who took part of this very important group. And of course, our embassy in Geneva, Nitzan, I see you here. Thank you very much for all your hard work on bringing this to happen. But most of all, I want to thank you, all the participants. I was trying to listen for your presentations today, and I'm not expert on renewable energy or energy, anything. I'm a consumer, but expert not. And it was very interesting listening to you. And there were words that repeating. There were a lot of challenges mentioned in your presentations, but also I heard a lot of optimism and hope. You were talking about law, opportunities, small scale, different changes that should be brought in your different countries and systems. And you were talking about smaller consumers, not just big conglomerates and companies. And I truly appreciate it, because I think this is the path we need to go with renewable energy, that it will be available to all of us, and not just in the big level, but also in a more smaller scale levels. Israel has been using some of the renewable energy. We still have a long way to go, a lot to learn from our colleagues around the world, and to share from what we learn. And I hope that all of us will be able to work together towards viable environment, because when looking into renewable energy, we're looking into our future, our children's future, our partners, our friends, and our colleagues around the world. And this is the direction we need to go. So thank you for the different presentations and your thoughts. And I truly hope you'll be able to bring the change you were talking about, and the directions you were mentioning in your respectful countries. Thank you again to all the team, Suleiman, Abigail, and everybody else, and all Rabin from our Shfaim Center for also the logistical support of this program. Again, thank you, UNECE. Looking forward for lots more cooperation. Our embassy in Geneva, just the beginning. And good luck to all of you, and thank you, and my apologies, I have to run.
Thank you again, Irit. Okay, so before we go on to the summary of the whole course, I just want to hear from you guys. If everybody could think of one thing that they got out of this course. I don't want to go over all the things that I asked you in the feedback form. You can fill that out, but I want to hear from you one thing that you got out of this course. And if you have anything in addition that you want to say about the course, any feedback, whether it's bad or good. But in the meantime, if anybody has just a very short thing, one thing that you got out of this course that you can take forward. Yes, also.
Yes, thank you. I think it was really good to hear about experiences of different countries.
Great, thank you. That's one of the things that makes these Mashav courses unique, the fact that we want people to interact and hear from and learn from each other, and not just from us. Anybody else? If you don't put your hands up, I'm going to start calling out names. Yes, Luca.
Yes, unfortunately, my camera seems to be glitching, so I'll keep it off. Well, one of the things I personally like very much about this course is that we, as also mentioned, cooperated with international, well, let's just say, representatives from different countries. It was good to hear about experiences that other countries face. We cooperated closely with the representative of Belarus, Ekaterina Lazarenko, and it was a nice change of pace. We face one set of problems, they face another set of problems. It was a good way to get to know about different countries and their problems and energy, and how can we benefit from their experience.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Magdalena?
Yes, I would like to thank you for the organization of this seminar, and personally for me it was very useful to learn from some of the presentation about situations and solutions that are happening in other countries, but still here in our country are not implemented, and we can learn about new technology, and especially for the dual use of solar PV, and for the underdeveloped communities, how this need for electricity can be solved in a very sustainable manner, and of course also to share experience with other country and see their situation and how they manage and how they face with the challenges. So that will be my side.
Thank you very much, Magdalena. Haik?
Я тоже хочу поблагодарить за этот курс.
I would also like to thank you for this training course. Wonderful idea. I met our colleagues from other countries, and I hope we have more programs and we will take part in them, and I hope we stay in touch. I hope we stay in touch. I hope so. I hope so that we have more questions like this.
Hayek, let me try to answer your request. Of course, we also hope to continue our cooperation with our colleagues from Israel regarding the working group that you jointly did work with for almost 3 weeks. Of course, the idea was for you to stay in touch. You have all the email addresses of all the participants, and we will speak to Abigail to perhaps create a quorum on some platform. We will discuss it together and we will inform all the participants, because I think that it will really be interesting to you. And our joint project of Georgia and Belarus will be of great interest. Other projects were regarding particular countries, but now at least you have an idea of what happens in other countries, not only in Israel. And this is great foundation for future cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Haik. And Oleg, I definitely want to strengthen what you're saying. I see the WhatsApp group and any emails as a great resource. I know that previous Mashav courses that we've had, participants have kept in touch. They still work together, people from Europe cooperating with people from South America and people from Asia, all over the world. Just getting information and cooperating and inviting each other to conferences, writing joint papers together. This definitely is something that we would like to continue and continue interacting and cooperating with everybody on this platform. So thank you for bringing that up, Haik, and for reiterating that, Oleg. Does anybody else have any things that you got out of this course? Yes, Oleg.
Thank you, Abigail. it's not on what I got out of this course. Unfortunately, I was only able to be present, I think, at 4 sessions. It is more to say things about the course, about the participants, about the organizers. It was great to hear Irit on everything she said. And I would like to probably reiterate what she said and also express gratitude from UNECE for the opportunity that we had with Israel to organize this course. And judging by what we heard from the participants today and during the course and the projects that they presented, this was a valuable experience. And again, it would have been better if we could all gather in Israel, in the Promised Land. Maybe we can do it sometime later with a similar course, all things being better than they are now. But what we had was indeed valuable in my opinion, and I think Gianluca shares it. We would like to thank all the organizers and lecturers in Israel. So many thanks to the Arava Institute, many thanks to Mashav. I would not name all people, but I have to name Abigail, and I have to name Tamara at the Permanent Mission of Israel, who started all this. And this is in many ways thanks to her that we had this course. It was long in the process of organizing, but it materialized, and I think it was worth it. All the way it was worth it. Many thanks to the interpreters, Dmitry and his colleagues. They have been stellar as always. So many thanks to them. I think having the interpretation into Russian was very important. So I think that's all. And I know that my colleague Gianluca, who has not been thanked by Irit, but he should be thanked by all means. He is our UNECE renewable energy expert. And so Gianluca, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Oleg. And thank you, Abigail, first of all, for the excellent organization of this course. Unfortunately, I could not really follow all the lectures and all the in all days, but I could see even today that there is a good participation in terms of exchange among the participants of information, of best practices, on ways they've been solving some of the issues maybe in advance compared to other countries, which is one also of the main role of UNECE on renewable energy, is also really to put together experts that have a different level of knowledge on renewable energy. And then I see that they've been participants, they've been appreciating pretty much the level of, let's say, the content throughout the course. And I see from the questionnaire that there is really a lot that has been going, I mean, that has been tackled and that has been considered in this in all these weeks. And I believe from the feedback and also from the presentation on the various projects and activities, the structure that has been done, that I hope that this has been also useful for improving their way of tackling their work on a daily basis. I would like to say that this is definitely a special situation. I mean, this course would have been much better to be in person, and I hope that this can be possible in the near future. I welcome what has been said by Irit Savion on the possibility of strengthening the cooperation in the future, and we are together with Oleg, we are looking forward to strengthen the cooperation on different ways. I would like also, in addition to Abigail, also to thank Tamara here in Geneva, and all those that have been contributing to the organization of this course. I just sent the link on the UNECE activities on renewable energy. I would like to invite you to go through. Mainly, I mentioned only two major activities. One is related to renewable energy hard talks is really what has been raised also today on the need to put together the various stakeholders in a country to see the different angles of view on the various issues and various problems, and to find a common way, a common ground for a solution, and possibly for recommendations to policymakers. The other one is that has been raised also today is the importance of data and information, reliable data, reliable information that often is not really available. And on that, the UNEC is doing on a regular basis a report with the REN 21, and there will be next one covering all the countries of the participants in this course, and this will be issued in April 2022. You will be, at least there will be also a public review at some point, so you are all welcome to contribute to improve this report that we believe it's useful not only to tracking the progress, but also to improve the quality of information and data in the future. I believe I don't have anything else to say, just to thank you, and I hope really that next time we can be in person, so I can also leave aside all the work that we have on a daily basis and be focused and participate in a more active way to the discussion of any other next course or activity. So thank you very much, and I give you the floor, Abigail, to you back. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianluca.
Maybe just a couple of things to add. One of the ways to stay connected is for Gianluca and me to add your emails to the database that we have, where we inform all interested in the events in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and sometimes sustainable energy in more general terms. So if you all agree, or rather if you do not object, we will add you to this database or other databases, and you will receive, sometimes more than once, information on the events. Also, we will have a very interesting workshop. It is country specific, it is for Kyrgyzstan. Our consultants have produced guidelines and best practices for micro, small, and medium enterprises working in the area of energy efficiency and renewable energy in Kyrgyzstan for meeting the challenges of COVID-19. So if you are interested, I can send you the Zoom link for registration. I can actually put it in the chat right now and see if you want to participate. It is on the 16th, which is the day after tomorrow, and it is Geneva time from 9 to 11. So should be good time-wise for pretty much everybody. Thank you. Now, Abigail, to you, please.
Thank you again, Oleg. I still want to hear from some of the participants about things that you guys are taking out of the course. We heard from some. Is there anybody else who wants to? I was going to call on everybody, but yes, Nicholas.
Yes, I also want to join the other classmates for the course, and thank you organizers for this very interesting course. And from point of the takeaways, as we said in the beginning of the training course, it is very important and useful to share knowledge and experience of each country, and take some of the experience from other countries, adjust to country-specific situation, and put in practice. And that is, I think, important takeaway from this course, that we will take all the experience from each other and adjust to our countries and to try to put in practice. Many of us work in government bodies, other companies that are motivators or drivers of energy transition, energy changes in our countries, and this is very important that we will share our experiences, we will talk about our challenges, and we will try also to find out solutions that will be useful in our country's energy transition. we know that we need more renewable energy sources on country level, regional level, or in world level. So this is very important for me, that I have been acquainted with the other countries' experience I've met, and I will try to keep in touch with all our classmates to share our experiences later stages as well, and tackle same issues, same challenges which we will have come across in the future as well. So thank you for this opportunity, and I hope and I'm sure that our cooperation, our connection will continue in the future as well, and we will also have opportunities to meet some of the platforms, but physically will be better if COVID restrictions will allow us in the future. So again, thank you and greetings from Georgia, and hopefully everything will be stabilized and we will have a chance to meet physically as well. Thank you again.
Thank you. It really is such a shame that we couldn't do this program in person, but we will be having courses in person already in 2022. So whether you or your coworkers or friends can come on these programs, we'll let you know and get the word out there. If anybody else has something to say, now is the time. I have, in the meantime, I will I'd like to present Nitzan Arni from, yes, oh, Nitzan, I was just presenting you. Nitzan Arni from the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is a diplomat in Israel's mission to the UN in Geneva. Nitzan, take it away.
Thank you, Abigail, and it's good to see everyone and to take part in, I know it's your last session. Everything been said, so I'll just say a quick thank you to everybody participating, to the interpreters, to our counterparts in UNESI. I think we started conversations on this course a year ago, even before. It's actually a follow-up course because we had a course with Arava Institute a few years back, and we said the feedback was so good. We said we have to continue it. And with COVID around, we didn't know if we should follow it up, to do it virtually, and the conclusion in the end was that we have to move forward because COVID unfortunately is here to stay, and this is the new reality. But I hope we will be able to do something physical in the future with you guys or with your colleagues. I hope in the near future. Tamara is sitting here with me. We've been listening to the last part. She was a part of this engine behind the scenes, and so we're really happy that we started the discussion. We didn't know how will it look like and if it will ever happen, so really happy it took place. And thank you to all of you who've been involved and been leading this, and we will stay in touch, and we'll see after getting the feedback from the forms you filled up. We'll sit with UNESI to follow up to see if there's room for continuation, and what can we and how can we support to move it forward. So thank you, and good luck to everyone. Thank you, Tamara.
Amazing. Thank you, Tamara and Nitzan. I would like to introduce one last person to give just a summary overview of this course. You guys all know me already. I am doing the logistics of the course, but behind the scenes, there is somebody has their, oh, here. Behind the scenes, there is somebody very important, and that is Tali Zohar, who was the academic advisor of the course. She was recommending which lectures to bring, what topics to talk about, different things like that. So Tali, are you here?
Yes, thank you, Abigail.
Great.
So I want to thank all my former speakers for the kind words, and I also want to thank all the participants that presented their projects. It was very interesting, and I also agree that it's a good thing to have multiple participants from multiple countries so we can see and learn about each country, current situation, current policies. I made a very short presentation. I will try to share. Okay. Everyone is seeing my screen?
Yes, we see it. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think that the main conclusions from this entire course is of course, the need to adopt and mitigate climate change. And we've seen in all the lectures the rapid demand for electricity. And as I just said, and everyone before me said also, each country has already its own goals that they want to achieve to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to increase the renewable energy generation. And each country needs to have its own sustainable regional development policy and plans, because each country is different. We used Israel as a case study, but of course, each country and each region inside the country, each region inside the countries has different resources and different community needs and different ways to achieve the goals. And it's very important for each of us to see where we should put an effort and where we should raise more awareness, and of course to also deal with the environmental and the economic and the social implications of the energy transition, because not everything is everything has the upside and downside, so we need to take it under consideration. I really encourage all of you to use the drive Avigail set for us, a Google Drive, a shared Google Drive folder with all the presentations, and also recorded all the Zoom sessions, and also literature folders. And if you need anything else, and if you're interested in more readings and other maybe any kind of other data that you wish to have, please approach me or Abigail, and we will upload it to the drive, and it's for all of you to use all the time. So yes, this is part of us being collaborating and you know, using each other's help. Please, if you haven't filled the feedback form yet, please do so. It's very important for us to know what you've enjoyed and what was missing in this course. At the end of the course, you will get a certificate. Participants who attended more than 2 sessions will receive participation certificate, and participants who attended all the sessions and also did a project will get a completion and a course completion of the course and project certificate. I want to thank all of our speakers, and of course a warm thank you to Abigail, who's really doing a remarkable job in logistics and organizing everything, and she's very enthusiastic, and she's always available. She's answering really quick to everything, so thank you very much for that. And of course to our partners and to you, all the participants that joined us 2 and sometimes 3 times a week for a few hours and listened and asked questions and shared with us their project and their current states in their countries. And I wish all of us to succeed in our mission. And of course, if you had any additional courses that you wish to join through Mashav, And of course, through our partners in the UNECE, it would be great. And I look forward to meet you all in the future in other path. So good luck and thank you.
Thank you, Tali. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's stay in touch. Bye for now, everybody.
Avigal, just one
Yes.
more word based on what Nitsan said. Indeed, we had a wonderful workshop and study tour in Israel in 2015. So my only wish today, and Christmas is coming and New Year is coming, so wishes should come true. Hanukkah just passed. So the wish is that the next time we have a workshop in Israel, it will take less than 6 years in between.
Definitely. Definitely. Great. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you all.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Bye, everybody.
New Year. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Bye.
Abigail, many thanks for what you did. It
Thank
was
you.
fantastic.
Thank you. We'll continue on emails.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.